Now let's talk about using the average aggregate function. Now, AVG or average is a built-in function in Microsoft SQL Server, and it's there for you to use in Transact SQL to get averages of values in your data. Now, I talked about sum in a separate video that was entitled Using Sum, and so now in this video entitled Using Average, we're going to take a look at average, and you're going to see it's very, very similar as to how it's used with a couple of little tweaks here. First of all, with an average, it creates an average of all the values that are returned by the query, but you also need to have this straight in your mind. Average ignores null values. Now, the best way to understand this is to jump out into the Management Studio and look at it in some sample code. And also, keep in mind on all these videos, and I don't know if I remember to say it every time or not, probably not, because I've got my mind on the nerd stuff. But if you see me typing code out in the Management Studio, I most likely include that sample code for you out there in the Working Files folder. So you can just go look it up. But I do have it out there for using sum, using average, and using count. So just go take a look at those if you would like, or you can just type right along with me and do it yourself. So let's jump out to the SQL Server Management Studio, and we're going to use average. Now, when we worked with sum, we worked with the sales order detail table. So what I'm going to do is just paste the query that we started with there right here. And notice we're going to execute against AdventureWorks 2012. And if I execute that, you see the results that I'm getting back. Now, notice we've got all kinds of things. We were focusing when we were doing our summing on this line total, and then we used these special offer IDs as kind of a limiting to sum only for certain offer IDs. Well, now let's talk about averages. Let's create an average, okay? We want to select, and we're going to use line total, and I'm going to do this way. It helps you understand what's going on. And we're going to alias this column name to line total average. And notice I put it in literals because there's a space in there. And then I'm going to say from the sales schema dot sales order detail table. I'll arrow down to sales order detail and hit enter. Now, I want an average of this. So how do I get that? I'm going to type AVG, open parentheses, and include the name of the column that has the numerical values that I want to average in the parentheses. This is a function. And this is just loading into the function and it's being processed. So I'll highlight that, execute it, and there is the average value. Now, what was the sum? Very easy to see. Just change this to sum, and it works exactly the same way, except that instead of averaging, it's summing it, okay? So we do our average. So I'll highlight that one more time, and there is our average. And just like we did with our sum, we can limit the numbers that are averaged in a where clause. So we will select and we'll do our average line total, and we will do line total average for ID 4. We'll make that the title of our column. Okay, and we'll come from sales and we'll do sales order detail. And we will go down to the next line and we'll say where special offer ID equals 4. So now we're just going to average any values in the line total column where that special offer ID on that row equals 4. All right, and then we're going to alias that column to give us a good description of it. All right, so we'll highlight all of that. We will execute it, and there is our average for the ID equals 4. Now, if we want to see the average for ID equals 5, very easy. We'll just change it 5 there, and then we'll change it to 5 here so that it makes sense to us, and we'll execute that. Now notice we're at 1551.85, and we'll do some rounding here, but I'll execute that. So from 1551, the average for ID 5 is 868. That is how to run averages. There's a lot of power here. You will use these a lot in reporting and digging into your data, trying to do data mining and so forth. But for now, that's a pretty quick, simple run through on how to use the average function, the average aggregate function in your SQL querying.